welcome to the second Fragments of Silicon review of the week. This time we are covering The Inner World. It is a point-and-click adventure game from Head Up Games and Fizbin Studio, both located in Germany. Germany has a tradition in adventure games that doesn't get a lot of recognition outside that country. Maybe that's a subject for another day. I gotta admit, I don't know too much about that. Anyway, so The Inner World. Where do I start with this? Because
mechanically, this is a really traditional point-and-click role-playing game.
This is true. A lot of the modern-day adventure games we play on the show are, kind of in the Telltale style. They're more narrative, character-driven. This is an adventure game that could have been made in the 90s. It's not just it's not just the mechanics, but it's entirely hand-drawn, like cell animation. It reminds me of adventure games from the mid to late 90s that did this, like The Curse of Monkey Island, The Last Express, or the Broken Sword games.
Mm-hmm.
As far as its world and characters, now we get into some very strange things.
Yeah, this is little bit Salad Fingers, a little bit some of the British stuff like Wallace and Gromit and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's definitely got an unconventional flair. I'm not exactly sure what the creatures are outside of they're called Esposians.
Which is the people of Esposia, which is
the world.
This is a universe that is made entirely out of soil, and there is a spherical airspace that is the sky, quote unquote, of that world. And you're living on the inside surface of an air bubble in the middle of soil. And everybody has like Tim Burton candy stripe arms and legs and noses, except for you, because your nose is actually a flute.
A literal nose flute.
Yes. Yep.
In fact, that's his nickname, Nose Flute. His actual name is Robert.
Yeah, Robert. The names are pretty ordinary for all of the weirdness.
Yes and no, but
most of them.
that would be spoilers. Anyway, so The Inner World is actually a fairly old game at this point. I believe it came out. I'm trying to remember the order here. If it came out on mobile or PC first, but I know the game was first created in 2013. Then it got, I want to say, ported to the PC or mobile in 2014, one of the two. But the reason why we're reviewing it here in 2017 is because it just got a port to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One not too long ago. Like, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. I mentioned this previously, but we're reviewing the PC version because, that's the thing we all have access to. I suppose Android, but honestly, it's easier to do it on the PC, Steam and all that stuff with codes.
We could have potentially forced Pettyfan to play it on the PS4, but we didn't have time, and we didn't
also,
get the
I would have
for that
had
anyway. So
yeah, I would have had to have bought that.
Yeah, I'm like,
right.
So, PC version it is. In terms of content, I'm suspecting that it's all the same. Like, if there's some like console-specific editions, that's kind of out of our range here.
Yeah, like the only thing I could think of that would be different would be maybe Control.
Well, yeah, it's like the control and possibly the UI.
This is actually a game where the pointing and clicking would be potentially tricky without actually pointing and clicking or
Well,
mobile.
the
Yeah.
PS4, it should be noted, has a little trackpad on the controller, so it might not be
That's
as
true.
bad, but the Xbox One...
I mean, that said, it's not like you need to do stuff fast usually, so it should be possible to, like, using the stick, like, click on something and move it, but...
I'd imagine that the dual analog controllers, they'll work fine enough, but this is a point and click adventure game in the literal sense. You point, you click, you drag. I will say that not every puzzle is shaped around that. It does have like the token logic puzzles.
And some things that are just done by talking to people enough times.
Right. But there are some puzzles where the solution isn't a given item, but you have a bunch of clues and you've got to figure out the solution.
Right.
The guard puzzle in chapter 4, I believe. That's the preeminent example that's sticking out in my mind. But anyway, so in the world of Asposia, it is a time of darkness and chaos, because the way that air is gotten in the inner world here is through what they call wind fountains. Little openings in the earth that circulate.
Not that little. They're pretty big.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are 3 of them.
Yeah.
Two of them have stopped working.
Yeah, and that is like the last hope of Asposia, because if that wind fountain dies, then everything dies. Quite literally.
On account of the lack of
Air.
Well, for one thing, we don't know if the whole thing would just collapse, but also air. And their primary source of light is from little sky jellyfish things that glow when they're blown on.
Yeah, they're called phosphos.
Mm-hmm.
And they require the air to stay awake. It's like, if the last wind fountain dies, everything else happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and to compound that, the land is constantly besieged by these dragon things called Basalians. And what they do is they turn you to stone if they think you've sinned enough.
Which is pretty arbitrary.
Yeah. So, this ain't a happy place right now.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, your character is mostly cheerfully oblivious, although sometimes his facade cracks.
I'm like, that's definitely one of those character journey things. Let's just say he gets a lot less oblivious as the game progresses. But you play as I'm not sure what Jonathan's actual designation is in relation to the Wind Monk.
Robert, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, Robert.
He's the adopted but neglected son of the like head Wind Monk guy whose name is Conroy.
Yeah, Conroy. Yeah, who's basically the guy in charge.
Yeah, the intro narration is Conroy took Robert in and raised him like a son. Not his own son, but
a son.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, Conroy, the Wind Monks are the guys in charge of the Wind Fountain. And since there is only one Wind Fountain left, he's kind of like the de facto ruler of the world, let's say.
Because he'll tell you what to do so that your moral standing doesn't cause this wind tunnel to shut down out of space. wind funnel to shut down out of spite, and if that just happens to involve doing what he says and potentially donating all of your worldly wealth to him or whatever, then that's not suspicious, is it? Amusingly, right at the pretty early in the game, you find one of the other wind monks from one of the other wind fountains just in a bar drinking and gambling because he's basically been out of a job for who knows how long now. You have to steal his robe.
Yeah. And accompanying you on your journey is freedom fighter / love interest Laura. Like she's definitely the contrast to
Robert.
Robert.
She's smart and cynical and has a pet pigeon that steals things.
Yes. Also, she's very violent.
Uh-huh. Whereas Robert generally seems to not want to hurt things.
Yeah. And she's also the playable character in like chapter 2 for most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Robert gets inconvenienced by certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like in terms of adventure games, honestly, its style and its characters and its world are the biggest things going for it.
Yeah, and the acting is, I think, it's weird, but it's good.
Well, it's probably because as I mentioned, this game is made in Germany, so I'm not exactly sure where they got their English actors.
Generally, most of them sound British-ish or European, although some have pretty low on the accent scale.
Some do.
Some, yeah.
Or at least they don't have very regional accents. But yeah, the acting is good. It seems a little bit otherworldly a lot of the time, which, makes sense because this is a weird-ass world.
Yeah. And, it's like the design of the game, the hand-drawn animation and everything really makes it stand out in today's market. Like I really haven't seen an adventure game look like this in about 20 years.
Mm-hmm. But it's done very well. The backgrounds are nicely colored, and then the main characters kind of stand out by looking a little bit more two-dimensional and cartoony. But
now that being said, I think my biggest problem with the game was its length. This is a pretty short adventure, even by adventure game standards. I think I put in about 8 hours tops. The game is split up into 5 chapters, and each chapter is, 3 or 4 rooms tops.
you have to go back and forth through those rooms and do various things, but they're not huge, expansive. It's not like in.
It's kind of the inverse of the Book of Unwritten Tales too that we reviewed not too long ago. That was not necessarily big, but there was a lot more to do in each given area or chapter. This is this is a lot more scaled down, and it's and that kind of ties into the price. The game is $15. It's hard to recommend a game this short on $15. I'd say $10 at most.
I don't know. I think the production values might justify it, but I certainly don't think that it would be a steal at less than $15. I think that's around the upper end of what would be good, but
fair enough.
I don't think it's completely unreasonable, certainly. But I wouldn't say it's a bad idea to wait for a sale if they are going to do that.
Yeah. Also worth noting that there is a sequel in production called The Last Wind Monk, and that's coming out in the summer. So, maybe we'll have the devs on the show, maybe we won't. I'm trying to do that. But as far as the Inner World goes, it's a competent adventure game that's really bolstered by its atmosphere and its animation and its design.
Yeah, if you like the old kind of adventure games that has a lot of go and find the items and combine them in the right way and use them on the right thing and talk to people, I think this is a good game. If you're the kind of person who isn't so much interested in when you need to reach something up high, making a slingshot out of a earthworm and a broken crutch instead of just using the crutch or a windsock or something that are in the area, then this might not be the game for you.
Yeah, it's like this game is chock full with traditional adventure game logic. So and we've certainly had developers on the program who don't like that style of adventure game.
And I will clarify this. You're trying to get this is what Petty Fan is actually doing right now. You're trying to get a bird to come down off of a ledge for you, and there is a earthworm in the area. My initial thought was that, I know, we'll do something to try to get it to want the earthworm. But no, you have to get the earthworm drunk and then use it as the string for a slingshot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's some wacky logic.
Yeah.
And there's a you need to get something out of a bubblegum machine, a gumball machine, and there's a slot machine nearby. And I thought that at some point you might get a coin out of the slot machine and use that to buy the gumballs, because the gumballs look like eyes, and there's a kid who wants to crush the eyes of the bazillions. But no, the correct answer is to go and get a breath mint and use the breath mint to pay for the gumballs, because it looks like a coin. So yeah. It's weird logic.
All right, Twilight, your thoughts on the game?
I thought the game was really charming, I guess you could say. I really enjoyed it. How alien it was. It's kind of drew me in, but yeah, I'd recommend it if you enjoy the traditional adventure games and not expecting something epic. To say.
Yeah, it's a kind of creepy charming.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're looking for something more in line with the Book of Unwritten Tales, and probably wouldn't like this here, but yeah. If you're looking for something short, this is be for you.
Right, so I think that'll about do it for the Inner World. And indeed, that'll about do it for the Fragments of Silicon reviews for the week. Be sure to tune in next time, where we will be tackling Owlboy and a game called Ellipses.
Oh man, I get to play Owlboy that I already had.
Yes. And on our main show this week, we only have the one interview. We'll be having Manga Gamer back on the program, as what was John's 6th time on the program? 5th?
He qualifies for the free virtual Sunday.
Yes.
Yeah. And this time we're going to be talking about D Capo 3R. This is the visual novel he's been working on personally, and we're actually going to be reviewing that the week after, because apparently this is like an 80-hour visual novel.
Yeah, so that'll take some time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. Until next Wednesday. I wish you good gaming.